Hello everyone, my name is Henrik Din, and today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. Many people often ask, where are you actually from, Henrik? And when they hear about my story, they always have a bunch of follow-up questions. And so today, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about that origin story. For many of you who are watching in the US, you've probably heard of the country Thailand. And you've probably heard it because maybe one, you've eaten Thai food before, at least once in your life. Two, you've probably heard of many of your friends that have probably traveled across the world, and it's probably one of their dream bucket list destinations because of how cheap it is. Or third, you probably heard it from Hangover Part 2, and yes, with the lady boys.
Sorry, Alan, what the?
But what if I said I actually wasn't Thai, and that I'm actually Burmese? For those who are actually familiar with your geography, if you know where Thailand is, to the west of Thailand, the bordering country is actually Myanmar, or known as Burma. And so ethnically speaking, I'm actually Burmese. And it's a little hard to explain to a lot of my friends that I'm actually Burmese, but born and raised in Thailand. That's where sort of the cultural shock happens. And for me, you know, when I grew up, most times I actually conversed a lot with Thai people. And I integrated myself in the Thai community. I mean, I spoke in Thai, I ate Thai food, I went to, schools in Thailand and all that stuff. But whenever I returned home, I became Burmese. And it was just constant limbo state that I was in to figure out what my cultural identity was, whether I wanted to be Thai or whether I wanted to be Burmese. Now, for a long time, I didn't know where to fit in, right? Like I said previously, I was always confused whether I wanted to be Thai or Burmese. But growing up, I figured that I had to choose one. And for me, it was where I was. And so culturally, I always told people I was more Thai than anything. But when would I go home, I would say I'm Burmese more than I'm Thai. And I didn't know this terminology, but upon growing up and maturing and learning more about the world, there was this term called TCK. TCK stands for Third Culture Kids. I realized that for most of my life, I had to live in this different cultures constantly growing up. I mean, don't get me wrong, all my friends were from diverse backgrounds as well. I had Korean friends, Japanese, Thai, African, Burmese, I just had a whole group of friends that were from just various different backgrounds. So you could say we were all TCK, growing up. And so I wanted to make this video to reach out to all my friends, all the people who are feeling lost and misunderstood. I mean, this is my first video, so obviously it is still a trial, but essentially what I really wanted to try to do was to reach out to those who have the same story as I do, who is going through the same journey or has gone through the same journey as I have. And hopefully throughout the next several weeks of me posting these videos or just a series of videos explaining on who I am and the journey that I'm on, hopefully it inspires or motivates one of these TCKs or any of these kids who have growing up in different cultures. And though I may have grown up culturally, confused and maybe sometimes even not sure of where I wanted to belong, I can safely say that after years of searching and reflecting and still on that journey of reflecting and finding myself, I hope that these videos reach out to some of those people who need it most. And that is why this is my story. So welcome to the life of Henrik Din.